My husband looked me dead in the eye at our anniversary dinner and said he'd rather kiss a stranger than touch my lips. Everyone at that table laughed. But what they didn't know, I had his bank statements in my purse, and honey, I was about to burn his whole world down. Before I tell you how I took everything from the man who disrespected me in front of the world, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me if you would have walked away or gotten even. Because what I did, most people wouldn't have the guts. Now let me tell you this story, and I promise you, every word of it is true. 7 years. That's how long I wore his ring. 7 years of building what everyone thought was the perfect marriage. I'm a corporate lawyer, and I was good at my job. Really good. Made partner track by 32, had my own corner office, and was pulling in a salary that made my mama proud. Lawrence, my husband, he was in real estate. Started with flipping houses, and by year 5 of our marriage, he was moving serious money. We're talking luxury developments, commercial properties, the whole thing. From the outside, we had it all. Penthouse downtown, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. His and hers, luxury cars in the garage. Vacation photos in Bali and Barcelona. You know those couples you see on social media and think, damn, they're living the dream. That was us. Except dreams and reality are two very different things, and nobody posts the truth on Instagram. The distance crept in slowly, so slowly, I almost didn't notice it happening. It started about a year before everything fell apart. Lawrence got busier, or at least that's what he said. More late nights, more business dinners, more trips I wasn't invited to. And as his empire grew, so did his ego. The man I married used to ask about my day, used to care about the cases I was working on. But somewhere along the way, I became more like furniture in our home. Present, expensive, but not really seen anymore. I told myself it was normal. Marriage takes work, right? People grow, things change. I focused on my career, threw myself into my cases, and ignored the little comments he'd make. The way he'd look at his phone instead of me during dinner. The way he stopped reaching for my hand. The way he'd criticize my hair, my clothes, my weight. Always with this little laugh like he was joking. But we both knew he wasn't. Our 7th anniversary was on a Thursday. I'd been looking forward to it because things had been so distant, and I thought maybe, just maybe, a nice dinner would remind us of who we used to be. I left work early, got my hair done, wore this beautiful burgundy dress that hugged every curve. I felt good. I felt like myself again. When I pulled up to Marcello's, this exclusive Italian restaurant, where you need reservations months in advance, I was actually smiling. That smile died the second I walked in and saw our table. There were 8 place settings. 8. Lawrence was already there, loud and animated, surrounded by people I barely knew, business associates, their wives, everyone drinking expensive wine and laughing at his jokes. He saw me walk in, and I swear to you his face didn't light up. He just nodded, like I was a colleague, showing up to a meeting, not his wife arriving at our anniversary dinner. I slid into the seat he'd saved for me, which was at the opposite end of the table from him, sandwiched between some guy named Keith, who worked in commercial lending, and his wife who wouldn't stop talking about her Pilates instructor. Lawrence didn't explain why our intimate anniversary dinner had become a business networking event. He just kept holding court, getting louder with each glass of scotch, showing off like he always did when he had an audience. The comments started small. Someone mentioned the dress I was wearing, said it was beautiful, and Lawrence cut in with, "Yeah, well, she's a lawyer. She can afford her own clothes now." Everyone laughed, but there was an edge to it. Then later, when someone asked how we met, he told the story, but made me sound desperate, like I'd chased him down. More laughter. I kept smiling, kept sipping my wine, but inside, something was hardening. Then came dessert. The waiter brought out this elaborate tiramisu with a little sparkler on top, announced it was for our anniversary. Keith's wife, trying to be sweet, suggested we should kiss for the table, do a little toast to love and marriage. Everyone raised their glasses, turning to look at us expectantly. And that's when Lawrence's face twisted into something I'd never seen before. Pure disgust. He actually grimaced, like someone had asked him to eat spoiled food. Then he said it. "I'd rather kiss a stranger than her." The table went silent. You could hear the sparkler fizzing on the dessert. Someone coughed. I felt every eye on me, waiting to see if I'd heard it, waiting to see what I'd do. And Lawrence, emboldened by the shock or the alcohol, or maybe just his own cruelty, he doubled down. "I'm serious. When's the last time she even tried to be attractive? I mean, look at her." A few people laughed. Nervous, uncomfortable laughs. But they laughed. And something inside me just broke. Not in the way you'd think, though. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my wine in his face, even though God knows I wanted to. Instead, I felt this cold clarity wash over me. This absolute certainty that I was done. Not just done with the marriage, but done protecting him, done making excuses, done being small so he could feel big. I excused myself to the restroom, walked slowly so I wouldn't stumble in my heels. And the second that bathroom door closed behind me, I let myself feel it. The humiliation, the rage, the grief for what I'd thought we were. I gave myself 2 minutes, 2 minutes to let the tears fall, to let my hands shake, to let myself hurt. Then I washed my face, fixed my lipstick, and looked at myself in that mirror. I barely recognized the woman looking back at me, and I realized that's because I'd been dimming my own light for someone who wanted to keep me in the dark. Here's what Lawrence didn't know. 3 weeks earlier, I'd noticed a charge on our joint credit card, $5,000 at a jewelry store I'd never been to. When I asked him about it, he said it was for a client gift. But Lawrence was a bad liar, always had been. So I did what any good lawyer would do. I hired a private investigator. The report came back the day before our anniversary. My husband had a girlfriend. Her name was Tiffany. She was 26 years old, and she wanted to be an influencer. He'd set her up in a condo downtown, a condo that was somehow being paid for through his company's accounts. The jewelry, the designer bags, the weekend trips to Miami, all of it was being funded with what was supposed to be business money. But it got worse, so much worse. I'd been carrying that folder in my purse to the anniversary dinner. I was going to confront him privately, ask for a divorce, try to handle it with some dignity. But after what he said at that table, after he humiliated me in front of strangers, dignity went out the window. This wasn't going to be a quiet separation. This was going to be war. I went back to that table, sat down, and played the sweetest wife you've ever seen for the rest of that dinner. Laughed at jokes, asked polite questions, even touched Lawrence's shoulder affectionately. When I said goodbye to his colleagues, he looked confused but pleased. Probably thought he'd broken me, thought I'd accepted my place. When we got home that night, he passed out drunk on the couch, snoring like a freight train. And I got to work. I opened his laptop. Lawrence was arrogant enough to use the same password for everything. Our wedding date, like I wouldn't figure it out. What I found in those files made my investigator's report look like child's play. Lawrence wasn't just cheating. He was stealing, misappropriating investor funds, creating fraudulent property deals, skimming money off the top of every transaction. He had shell companies, offshore accounts, and a paper trail that led straight to tax evasion. My husband wasn't just a cheater, he was a criminal. I spent that entire night documenting everything. Screenshots, copied files, emails, bank statements. I made backups of backups. Then I called in sick to work the next day and spent 12 hours with a forensic accountant I trusted from law school. We went through everything, built a timeline, followed every dollar. By the end of that day, I had enough evidence to bury Lawrence 6 feet under, legally speaking. But I didn't move yet. See, the thing about being a lawyer is you learn patience. You learn that the best way to win is to let your opponent think they're winning right up until the moment you destroy them. So for 2 weeks, I played the perfect wife. I was sweet. I was attentive. I cooked his favorite meals, laughed at his jokes, didn't ask where he was going or who he was with. And Lawrence ate it up. He got more arrogant, more careless, started coming home with perfume on his collar, staying out until 3 in the morning, barely bothering to lie anymore. During those 2 weeks, I was busy. I quietly opened a new bank account and started routing my salary there. I removed my name from every joint debt we had. I contacted 3 of Lawrence's biggest investors, the ones who'd trusted him with millions, and I scheduled meetings. I prepared divorce papers with the best family lawyer in the city. And then, because I believe in karma, I sent an anonymous tip to the IRS about potential tax fraud at Lawrence's company, complete with dates and transaction numbers. The morning I chose to strike was a Tuesday. Beautiful spring day, sun shining, birds chirping, the kind of morning that makes you grateful to be alive. I texted Lawrence and asked if he wanted to grab breakfast, said we needed to talk about our marriage. He agreed immediately, probably thought I was going to beg him to try harder, maybe ask for couples therapy. Men like Lawrence always underestimate women like me. We met at a quiet cafe near his office. He showed up 15 minutes late, didn't apologize, just slid into the booth across from me, looking annoyed that I was taking up his valuable time. I ordered coffee, he ordered eggs Benedict, and started scrolling through his phone while we waited for food. When the server walked away, I slid the envelope across the table. Divorce papers, filed that morning, requesting immediate separation of assets and full financial disclosure. The look on his face was almost worth the 7 years of my life I'd wasted on him. Shock, then confusion, then rage. He tried to grab my hand across the table, started saying we could work it out, that he loved me. All the lines men like him always use when they realize they're losing control. I pulled my hand back and told him the truth. I knew about Tiffany. I knew about the condo. I knew about all of it. And then I stood up, left money for my coffee on the table, and walked out while he was still sputtering excuses. By noon that day, the dominoes started falling. Lawrence's 3 biggest investors called emergency meetings after I'd showed them the evidence of financial fraud. The IRS launched a formal investigation. His business partner discovered the missing money and confronted him. The bank froze his accounts pending fraud review. And the beautiful thing about being connected in this city, word spreads fast. By evening, everyone in our social circle knew something big was happening with Lawrence's company. I didn't blast him on social media. I didn't have to. I just posted one thing, a simple statement about knowing your worth and walking away from people who don't see it. And I included one quote, "I'd rather kiss a stranger than her." I didn't name him, didn't have to. Within an hour, my phone was blowing up with messages from people who'd been at that anniversary dinner, from mutual friends, from people who'd always suspected Lawrence wasn't what he seemed. The story spread like wildfire, and Lawrence's reputation, the thing he valued more than anything, even more than his marriage, went up in flames. Tiffany left him within 48 hours. Turns out, influencers need funding, and Lawrence couldn't even pay his own legal fees anymore. His company collapsed in less than 3 months. The criminal charges came next: fraud, tax evasion, misappropriation of funds. Everything I'd documented, everything I'd handed over to the authorities, it all came back to haunt him. He lost the penthouse, the cars, the lifestyle. Last I heard, he moved back in with his mother, trying to scrape together money for his legal defense. The divorce was ugly, but I had the best lawyer in the city, and more importantly, I had the truth on my side. I got the penthouse, half of what legitimate assets he had left, and I made sure I was protected from his debts and legal troubles. He tried to intimidate me, sent threatening messages, showed up at my office once, but I'd learned something important through all of this. I wasn't afraid of him anymore. I wasn't afraid of anyone. 6 months after I filed for divorce, I made full partner at my firm. I started using my experience to help other women navigate difficult divorces, especially when finances were being hidden or manipulated. I began a foundation focused on financial literacy for women, teaching them how to protect themselves, how to see the warning signs, how to never be dependent on someone who doesn't value them. And slowly, piece by piece, I rebuilt my life into something that was actually mine. I'm not going to lie and say I found some perfect new man and lived happily ever after. That's not how real life works. But I did find something better than that. I found peace. I found myself again. I started going to therapy, dealing with the ways I'd made myself smaller, the ways I'd accepted less than I deserved. I reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with. I took that trip to Kenya I'd always dreamed about. I learned to salsa dance. I adopted a dog. I lived my life on my own terms. About a year after everything fell apart, I did meet someone, a good man, the kind who asks about my day and actually listens to the answer. The kind who thinks I'm beautiful when I first wake up, hair everywhere, no makeup. The kind who would never, ever dream of disrespecting me, especially not in public. But here's the thing I learned. I didn't need him to be complete. I was already whole. He just added to what was already there. Sometimes people ask me if I feel guilty about what happened to Lawrence. They ask if maybe I went too far, if destroying his entire life was really necessary. And I always tell them the same thing. I didn't destroy Lawrence's life. Lawrence destroyed Lawrence's life. I just stopped protecting him from the consequences of his own actions. I stopped being complicit in his lies. I stopped setting myself on fire to keep him warm. That night at the anniversary dinner, when he said he'd rather kiss a stranger than me, he thought he was humiliating me. He thought he was putting me in my place. What he actually did was set me free. He showed me exactly who he was, and more importantly, he showed me who I'd become. Someone who would accept that kind of treatment, someone who would smile through that kind of pain. And I decided right then and there that I was never going to be that woman again. The best revenge isn't just living well. It's living authentically. It's refusing to be diminished. It's knowing your worth so deeply that nobody can shake it, no matter what they say or do. Lawrence took 7 years of my life, but I took back my power. And honey, that's worth more than any empire he could have built. So that's how one sentence at dinner cost my ex-husband everything he owned. If this story resonated with you, smash that like button. Subscribe for more real talk stories about women who refuse to be disrespected. And comment below, Team Revenge or Team Walk Away. Drop your thoughts because I read every single comment. Remember, queens, know your worth, protect your peace, and never let anyone dim your light. I'll see you in the next one.